Joining us today on BFBS Radio is a man called Jules Roberts. He is a superhuman being. He really is. Jules, welcome along to the show.
Thank you very much indeed for having me along, Dave.
It's a good name, that name, Roberts, isn't it?
Absolutely, as we were saying offline, Roberts, we've achieved some great things.
We certainly have. You've obviously achieved a whole lot more than me, it has to be said. You're involved with the charity Walking with the Wounded. How did you get involved with the charity?
I've never served myself, but I've got many friends and family in the military, some of whom have been injured. And when the Walking with the Wounded went up to the North Pole, at that point I met several of the guys who were going on that trip, met the founders of the charity, and since then have raised money for them and have been involved in some of the training trips. And it's an organisation which I'm extremely passionate about and very keen to do as much as I can to raise the profile of injured servicemen and women, particularly now that we're withdrawing from Afghanistan and obviously the body bags aren't coming home, so it's not on the front pages anymore. The plight for many of these individuals is really only just starting. So that's one of the reasons that I'm very keen to try and do as many of these sort of silly challenges as possible to help raise money and profile.
So this isn't your first challenge with the charity. You did something called the Summer of Suffering. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so back in 2012, I thought it'd be a good fun to try and raise some money by doing a series of silly challenges. So I did a race called the Lakeland 100, which is a 105 miles non-stop race over the Lake District with about I think 6,000 meters of vertical on it, which was a nice warm-up. Then I went and did a 12-hour cycling time trial around Brands Hatch racetrack, and I hate cycling, so that was a particularly miserable 12 hours and one which I'm keen never to repeat again. And then finally I did 3 marathons in 3 days along the coastal path down in Cornwall. So that was a fun way to spend the summer of 2012 and raise quite a bit of money in the process.
The next big event for the charity is called Walking Home for Christmas. You're doing a pretty extreme challenge. Can we tell everybody about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Walking Home for Christmas is something that Walking with the Wounded have done now for the last few years, and it's just encouraging people to walk home from their place of work, back to home for Christmas. They just ask people to register online, pay £15. You'll get a bib sent out. It doesn't matter where in the world you are, and it doesn't matter how far you do it. We've got everything from one lady who's in her 90s who's walking 1 mile through to one chap who's doing Edinburgh to Newcastle over 200 miles, and then myself. And I thought, well, I do a lot of long-distance running. I can't really justify walking the 3 miles home from my office to home in London. So I'll go back to my parents' house where I'm spending Christmas, which is 160 miles away. And in keeping with the theme, the money that's raised from this particular initiative is used to help homeless veterans and a specific project that Walking with the Wounded run called Home Straight. And so I thought that to really sort of push this, I'd sleep homeless en route as well. So I'll be sort of dossing up in a bivvy bag in a couple of bus shelters, one somewhere around Milton Keynes and one somewhere around Tamworth, on the way back home in the 3 days before Christmas. I'm just hoping that it stays dry, but I suspect it's going to be pretty wet and cold.
Are we going to be able to follow your progress, Jules?
Absolutely. I will be tweeting throughout the course of the days and evenings. My Twitter handle is at Jules C. Roberts, Jules C. Roberts. And I will be putting up all sorts of pictures and stories as I go along. I'll also be hopefully joined by a few friends at various points as well.
And how can people help out? How can they donate to you for the challenge you're doing or the charity as a whole?
Well, what we really want to do here is try and get more people to sign up, more people to walk home. And like I said earlier on, it can be anything from 1 mile all the way up to an enormous distance. You don't have to do it in one go. You can split it up. And if you just go to the Walking with the Wounded website, which is www.tw.org.uk, or just Google Walking with the Wounded, you will find all sorts of information on there about this, and a link to sign up and get involved yourself. And like I say, you don't have to be based in the UK. I know many of your listeners are based all around the world, so please sign up, get involved. If you want to support me directly, my link is virginmoneygiving.com/homeless run. So That's virginmoneygiving.com/homeless run. And of course, any support would be very greatly received.
Jules, thank you very much for talking to us today. And we will, of course, keep in contact with you on each of those days that you're running on December the 21st, 22nd and 23rd and see how you're getting on.
Fantastic, Dave. Thank you very much indeed.